Hi, all of my P through T friends. I'm Kris, and I'm your Cardvoyant, and welcome back to Cardvoyant. This month, we're starting something new with doing these monthly readings based on your first name, your preferred first name. It doesn't have to be what is legally your first name. It can be what feels authentic to you, what you like to be called, what resonates with you. And if your name that resonates with you begins with a P through the letter T, this is the reading for you. So, I'm going to be using today my Rider-Waite cards. And these Rider-Waite cards are probably the most common cards in tarot. I mean, they are the cards on which most other decks are based, even if it's just slightly. But a lot of them follow very closely to the Rider-Waite. So I always use it for first-time clients when I'm doing private readings, just because it is so familiar. And if they want to learn more about tarot, this is really the deck you want to start with. And so I thought for this first month of doing these readings, we would use these. I have many tarot decks, a handful that I use for private readings. So we may use different decks in the future, we'll see. All right, so trying to think if there's anything else, but let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to, I've already meditated and tried to connect with my guides, which is how I start every reading. Before I do the reading. And the question that we're asking is just what you need to know, what it would be helpful to know, what it would be good for you to know for the month of May. I feel like this P through T group is maybe going to be the largest. I can just think of so many names that start with, PQRST. But your guides know, what collectively is going to be the best thing to say. My guides, your guides, universal guides. So we will just go with whatever comes up. I've been doing 5-card readings for other groups. I kind of feel like that's what we'll do today. But I read intuitively, and I just get a feel for how many cards to use, what the spread's going to look like. So I will let them dictate that. And I'm going to shuffle just a couple more times and may cut out some of the shuffling if it gets too long. I am doing a 5-card spread. I very, very seldom use clarifying cards, every once in a while, but you will see how I read in just a second. Oof. Okay, so these are very interesting cards, very interesting cards. Like most of the other readings I've done, these group name readings thus far, you've got a couple of major arcana cards. Now in tarot, there's generally 78 cards. 22 of those are what we call major arcana cards. And I'm sorry if I'm repeating stuff, if I'm being redundant and you're like, I know this. But for those who don't know, major arcana cards are sort of these big picture cards. They can be the totality of a situation or a lifetime or a person, right? They are all named and numbered, and their name talks a little bit about who they are, what they represent, right? So in this only 5 cards, 2 of your cards are major arcana. That's interesting. And then you've got 2 sword cards and a wands card. So let's get started. The first card is the Emperor. Now, very often, when I have two cards, or sometimes it's one card, sometimes it's three cards, depending on how many cards on the bottom, but they're a little bit separate, right? And they sit above the rest of the reading, so they affect the rest of the reading. And in this kind of 5-card spread, very often these top two cards are kind of talking about the situation right now. Not like, oh, here's some advice, here's some things to do. It's like acknowledging the situation and expanding on your information about it, your knowledge about it. We'll see if that's what this is about. Now, the Emperor, right? He looks exactly like what he is, right? It's very interesting because this it's very much kind of fire energy, very Aries energy. It's got the ram's heads on his throne. He's clad in red. This is talking about the passion that he has for what he's doing, what he cares about. The same with the red all around him. I mean, it surrounds him here. The crown talks about his connection with the non-physical world. I mean, he's the emperor. He has to have that connection. I mean, hopefully, right? The Ankh-looking thing that he's holding talks about life, physical life, right? So he's got this great connection to both the spiritual and the physical. This card, I have to tell you, many years ago, and this happens as you read tarot, your guides get to know you, and some of the cards will come to represent certain things that maybe they just touch on, and if you're just learning tarot, or it may be completely different, but your guides know, and it has meaning for you, and when you recognize it, they'll use it again and again to talk about that subject. This has a little bit of it. In many ways, it's more traditional for you, Emperor energy. But for me, when the Emperor comes up, because of a couple readings that I did years ago where this came up, and I knew immediately what it was about, this Emperor to me represents the universe. It represents source. It represents God, if you want to think of it in those terms. That's like how you like to label source or the universe or the all that is. So it is that sort of all-encompassing energy. What they're talking about here in this instance is the ways in which, I feel really strongly, the ways in which many people, souls who are lost in the density of earth life, right? They seek power. They seek to sort of aggrandize self so that they're over other people. So they feel better about themselves because they don't have this spiritual connection. They've cut themselves off purposely. I mean, they may have lost it at some point, but then it becomes purposeful, right? And so they're always seeking for this kind of feeling of kind of I'm okay, right? And I have meaning, I have purpose. What this card is talking about for you is those people who seek to connect themselves or be thought of as this emperor, sort of a god, if you want to think of it that way. I know that someone comes immediately to mind, someone who's in power, but it's not. They're not just talking about him, although that's certainly a part of it. We'll see that in the next card. But they want you to think about people in your life who do this, who attempt to, and perhaps do, where we all have different situations and we're at different places in our life, perhaps do sort of have this power over you or seek this power over you, sort of in the name of I am right. I know what's right. I certainly should have the power that I have, or the power that I'm seeking. This can be in relationships, and when it's in a relationship, it's sort of move toward, but often is that sort of abuse in one sense or another. Whether it's the kind of abuse where they're just like some of your free will is taken away or lost because of the way these individuals impose themselves in your lives or just sort of situate themselves in your lives. It can be a certainly workplace, right? I feel like it almost feels like more people in this group is going to be talking about relationships, situational relationships, where the familial, right? It's family, it's partners, it's sometimes children, sometimes older relatives. I brief story. I took care of my mother for a few years, my sister Pam also, and we were her caregivers. And my mother was the best, and she was always like so thankful and so like appreciative of anything we did. I belonged to a Facebook group of caregivers, and that was not the case with so many people. So many people was like, their parent that they were caring for, sometimes a disabled relative that they were caring for, and often kind of a hospice kind of situation. They were just so difficult and so angry and sometimes so mean, sometimes cruel, right? And this is the kind of emperor personality they're talking about. It doesn't have to be that way with the emperor, right? But we're talking about human beings who are putting themselves in the place of this kind of universal godlike energy, even if it's, doesn't seem like, oh, it's not that extreme, but it is that attempt, because when somebody takes away any bit of your free will, and sometimes we willingly involve ourselves in this until we realize, what's going on. But when they do that, they are trying to take on this sort of godlike rule, because the thing about the human experience, physical life, is free will is our greatest asset, but also our greatest joy, and it is what allows us to fulfill the goals that we had coming into this lifetime. So they're just talking, and of course, they're not just talking about the things that I said, these personal relationships. They are talking about communities, workplaces, for sure, um, larger scale, states, provinces, areas, countries, right? The world. And for sure, we have a few kind of bad actors in the world. I know, most of you, certainly not all of you, but most of you are in the United States, and it's clear what's happening here. But it's not just the United States. It's many other places, people who are already in power and people who are seeking power. So it's kind of like this presence. That's why I said, what's going on right now? It's like this presence in our lives. And particularly, they're talking to you, the P through D people. For some reason, they really want you to think about this, and they really want to acknowledge that it is going on in your life, and your guides know you, and they understand this next card, because this five cards in general, they're transitional. They talk about change. So they're often very challenging cards. This is a challenging card. Swords are the way we think, right? They're our mind, but they do talk about our physical mind. Now, some of the cards, sometimes these sword cards the swords are pointed straight up, and like all of them are, if they're what I'm going to talk about, which is being connected spiritually, like the Ace of Swords, right? Straight up. And it talks about not only our physical minds, but also the ways in which our physical minds and our souls are connected to the non-physical world, our guides, the universe, right? But here, this five, you've got these two swords that are like, they're trying to overcome the energy of the other three swords. But this is a card that really talks about the feeling of, and the way our minds sort of are grappling with the idea of defeat. And many of you feel right now like defeated, like this, like it's too much, it's overwhelming. And it's like, it feels like you may think it's a done deal. This is the way it is, and it's so hard. And I feel like a lot of this has to do with workplaces as well. That feeling of just, well, I can't do anything. And I hate it. Like, but what can I do? I'm powerless in this situation. That's what it feels like, right? I'm powerless in this situation. And I have to like go back to it, whether it's caregiving or workplace or just living in this environment of sort of chaos and people exerting or trying to exert power over us. I mean, it just, of course, of course, you can feel defeated. Please think about this card, and this is always true in any kind of card that represents a challenge. It has very positive aspects. You see how the two people here in the background, they're the ones who have kind of been defeated, or this kind of smirking guy in the foreground. They're facing the water, and water in tarot always talks about the spiritual. It talks about intuition. It talks about the psychic. It talks about the eternal. And they're facing that because they're gathering strength and energy and power from it, and intuition, right? Knowledge. I have my Earth Energy book that's out, and there it is behind me, although it's kind of blurry. There are several sections that talk about the power of the energy of water and using it, in our lives. Tarot knows that, right? We're going to see it in another card coming up. But we do have, even in the midst of those Emperor personalities, and even in the midst of this feeling of defeat, we do have power. We do have personal power. That power comes from within always, right? That is where our power, personal power, creative power, endurance power, knowledge power, intuition power comes from within. There's nothing outside of us that can affect that. And that's why this Seven of Swords, in a way, that's the next row. Seven of Swords is kind of funny in a way, right? Because here, these cards are a little bit similar. They have a slightly similar message, because here you have this card of it's like thievery, like it's sneaking, right? Here's this guy sneaking off with the swords that belong to these people in the background, again kind of smirking, and he's making off with them, right? While they are talking about whatever they're talking about, the battle they just won or whatever. All the swords here are pointed down, right? This is a very physical thing happening here. This is what, look at how it's under this Emperor card, right? This is what they think they're doing, right? They're stealing all these things away from, they're taking your peace of mind. I mean, these are sword cards, right? And it's very intentional, right? They feel like if they have this chaos keeps going, or they just kind of exerting these rules, or this vitriol, this angry language, this forcing you to do things. That could be a work thing, but sort of the anger and the lack of respect, right? That can be a family thing, this sort of power grab, also force power, that could be a family thing, a work thing, obviously a national thing, community thing, some kind of group thing. It could be a church thing or some sort of organizational thing. And they think this is what they're doing. They think this is what they're doing. It's, again, it's never the truth because we have personal power, and it's hard. It's hard to think, well, I just go in and everything's fine. That's not exactly what they're talking about. We're here to grow in the ways that we planned before we came into physical life. And we are here to create. We're here to learn to create. And we've done that through many lifetimes. Everybody who's here right now, again, it's in my Earth Energy book, which is a channeled work. So it's like a lot of information that came through, and I'm like, oh, I never thought of it. That's interesting. But they talk about how everybody who's here right now, everybody, with very few exceptions, some, but very few, have been through many, many, many lifetimes. Very, what I call mature souls. I don't really say old or young. That seems to like not make sense. But mature souls, meaning we've been through many lifetimes here, right? Who don't necessarily need to come back, or maybe didn't even kind of want to come back, but are here and doing so because of the times, because this is such a time of change and possibility, right? Also, a lot of these people who are trying to do the opposite, what we're trying to do is grow in love and light, move toward love and light. They are very fear-based, and so they're moving toward fear, and fear includes all of these things like power and greed and anger and violence, right? Those are all fear-based things. So that is kind of the truth of what's going on, but you are part of this group of mature souls, obviously, because you're interested in moving forward. That's why you're watching these kind of videos, right? Because you are interested in moving toward love and light. You are connected and you want to grow that connection, and you want to fulfill the goals that you had coming into this lifetime. And the way you do that is by creating them, because we create our own lives. We create our own reality. And so going inward simply means sort of like taking the time to let the noise of the outside world dissipate, even disappear, while you just sort of connect with your soul. Think about the things that you want to create. Think about what is truth and what are just beliefs, right? Because these people that are trying to act in this emperor way, they believe that it's the truth. I am better, or I can, or I want to make myself better, or I have the power to do this, and this is going to make me feel better, right? But that's a belief. That's not the truth. So what are your beliefs, and what is the truth? And how does shifting from maybe what you've been taught, or what you think, is just the state of what is, how does that belief differ from the truth when you think in spiritual terms? And you do this like by just connecting your soul. That's finding quiet moments. That's meditating, traditionally, if you like it. It's walking in nature. It's listening to music that's meaningful to you. It's hugging a tree. Sometimes it's doing something like watching a favorite show because it raises your vibration, right? Taking some time before you fall asleep to just kind of disconnect, right? Just take some deep breaths. And and honestly thinking about what you want to create in your life, imagining what you want to create in your life, because our imagination is a great tool, because thoughts are things. They have power, and therefore you have power just by your thoughts, right? And your sort of deeds, the things you do in the world follow that. When you know where you want to go, these people that think they're being all tricky and stealing away your free will, stealing away your life to sort of usurp power, right, from you, they don't understand that, and they don't know the power of connection, the power of understanding that we're all a part of Source, and that uh, unity is one of our greatest assets, right? That despite any sort of machinations, very physical machinations that they might have, or try to foist upon us, we still have our own joy, our own happiness. This is eternal and internal, right? Joy, happiness, curiosity, love, inclusion, right? Hope. All of these things are things that nobody, certainly not these people, right? That think that everything is based on um, power and control, right? Certainly they don't understand that, which, more's the pity, of course. They will sort of have karmic challenges, sometimes in this life, beginning in this life, because the karma can never completely be met, balance can never completely be achieved in the physical. It's a very good start, but it has to be taken into the non-physical and sort of evaluated and understood on a broader scale, in a broader way, right? Um, so that it's inevitable, of course, of course. Well, I mean, we all will need balancing. We're not perfect, of course. If we were perfect, there would be no need for us to be here. But the goal of the universe, the purpose of the universe, is expansion, and the universe seeks to balance in love and light, and so we all go through that kind of balancing as the universe balances, because what we do, say, think, feel, imagine, affects the universe. That's part of the growth of the universe. Okay. So this Seven of Swords, this this kind of stealing away that they think that they're doing, it's impossible, right? It's impossible. Short term, maybe, but even in the short term, they don't. Again, your internal power, right? But that's why you get this Sun card, Major Arcana card. It's such a fantastic card. I mean, the Sun card is all about rebirth and moving forward. Look at the sunflowers. What are sunflowers like? I mean, they grow, and then they drop so many seeds that also grow, right? And they're beautiful. And the sun here shining out, illuminating our lives, bringing a new beginning. And that is what we're moving toward. Every kind of havoc in your life, in your work, with family members, with this whatever is going on in the world, by these various regimes, they aren't going to last. They aren't forever. They aren't the totality of our lives. And certainly, I mean, they're just a blip, a minuscule blip in eternity, right? And with our eternal souls. So it's not something that's going to last forever. And I will say that certainly when it comes to like governments and stuff, none of this is going to be long term, because there are so many people that are seeking love and light, and many who have come to realize how important some of these things that we always have held dear are important in their lives, in their individual lives, right? So the sun is about new beginnings. You can see this flag here, this banner. That's again the red, the passion. This is what we care about, and what we care about is right here. This is the white horse. It's pure intention. It's moving forward in this sort of love and light, this pure energy. The child, of course, represents new beginnings as well, and innocence, right? Because it can be, excuse me, very like kind of dark or heavy, I guess I think is a better word than dark. The false emperor energy. And this childlike innocence is this beautiful energy of hope and love. You know, it's kind of how we think of children, but it's possible for all of us. It's in all of us. Again, this is even with workplace and family members and other kinds of, you know, I'm thinking like parental, child, but partner relationships also, friend relationships also. This idea of it's not going to last forever. There will be new beginnings, and they very much want you to think about what you want your future to look like, your individual future to look like. And it doesn't matter if it feels fanciful, right? It's you're creating your life. So grab onto that, think about, and it may take some time. Think about what your truth is in small moments. You don't have to meditate for 3 hours a day. In small moments, ask your guides for help, because they will nudge you, right? Your intuition. So maybe you'll pass a house or see something on TV or read something in a book or see something on the internet and think, oh my gosh, that would be awesome. That's what I want. And as you sort of go on and your guides help you, you can narrow it down. And as you narrow it down, you can focus on it. You can imagine it. You can plan for it, right? Because this isn't just like, well, it happens. We bring these things about. So is there work involved? I mean, yeah, I mean, of course, but I wish there was a better word for work, because it's like a joy, right? When we're moving toward things that we want and that we love and that we feel are purposeful in our lives, it's a joy, right? The work is a joy. Even when it's difficult at times, right? There's still this end game. So imagine it, think about it, plan for it, do it. Know that these times, individually, as groups, as humanity, are not going to last. Difficult times, right? False emperors fall, whether they're people in your lives, again, work, home, partner, or whether they're sort of people in positions of power. They don't last. They can't. There is an overall weakness to simply existing in physical power or attempting physical power. Doesn't mean they can't wreak havoc. It doesn't mean they can't truly hurt people. It does mean they aren't real emperors. They aren't gods. They aren't the universe. They aren't you, who is striving to move toward love and light, to learn, to grow toward love and light. The sun is the inevitable conclusion for you as you plan, as you get focused, as you ask for help from the universe, your guides, as you go inside to find that peace and love and joy and bask in it. Even if it's momentary, right? Like, my gosh, it's a beautiful morning. You know, the suns are shining. There's a couple like Simpsons clouds in the sky, right? It looks all beautiful, or Teletubbies sky. And you just joy in that moment and recognize that and thank the universe for that, because that kind of expands it, right? And understand that all of the universe is behind you, supporting you, pushing you, pulling you toward your goals. If we just sort of have these moments, and look, that's what it's about, right? That's what this Seven of Wands is about. Now, wands are our fire energy, and they're what we care about, what we're passionate about, what's meaningful to us. And you know, the Six of Wands is a card of sort of triumph, right? There's this triumphant imagery, and the Seven of Wands comes after that, right? Because we have sort of have this triumphant energy into physical life. But the Seven of Wands is kind of that, hey, I've got to kind of fight for my position here. I've got to keep my passion flowing, so that all of these other wands, these things that we don't really care about, but that show up in our lives, or sometimes they're people, whatever, we sort of just have to battle off. And I don't want to say battle because it sounds so hard, but we're just kind of defending. That's not good either. We're sort of maintaining our position and claiming our position. Do you see how he's kind of up on a hill here? And look what's running here. His foot's even standing in this water. That's the power he's got. He's got his personal power, even in the physical world. I mean, he's got this gold sleeve, right? His personal power. He's got the green tunic that's talking about this physical lifetime, right? But he's straddling this water. He understands its power. It's supporting him. It's guiding him. It's strengthening him continually as he sort of wends his way through earthly life. And he knows that he has this strength of what he cares about, what he believes in, his goals, his connection, right? And he's not going to let it be taken away. It can't be taken away from him. And this card is acknowledging what we're all going through, what you, my P through T people, are particularly going through in your individual lives and kind of in your thinking, how it's affecting you, what's happening in the world, and in your individual lives, and in your organizations or workplace. It's talking about maintaining your passion and your caring and your love and your goals, despite what these false emperors would have you believe, or what they are trying to do. Because ultimately, again, we create our own lives. And as a collective, P through T collective, but through all of us, right? A collective, we bring about change in sort of the overall community, family, state, country, world, just by exuding this kind of positive, loving energy. It collects, it gathers, it expands, because love, the power of love, which is the universe, is love, right? And that is a power, and that is a force, and it's always exponentially stronger than fear-based energy, always. So it sort of gloms together, and we affect change in this way. It happens in small ways in our lives, and it happens in big ways in the world. But even as you sort of maintain your position and hold on to this wand, that are the things you care about, the people you care about, the goals that you have. And if you're like, oh, I don't know, what I should be doing in the world. Well, the first thing to kind of ask is, well, what do I want to do? What do I want to do? The universe supports your goals, and coming into the world, you weren't asked or tasked with coming in to save it. you were given the opportunity, and you took the opportunity, you wanted the opportunity to come into physical life, to learn and grow through in the physical world in ways that you wanted to learn and grow. So yes, you're part of the collective. Yes, you wanted to be here at this time for to sort of help with things, but you alone aren't tasked with saving everything, right? You will, just by the energy of your love and your positive growth toward love and light. But this is a very personal experience as well. So what do you want to do? What goals do you have? What things in your life aren't serving you? Are they these things? These, 6 wands down here? Because you can push them away. You have that power, but I mean, of course you have the power. And if you're in a job where you have this false emperor, it's difficult because we all need a paycheck. Think about what you want. Think about what kind of boss you want. Imagine it, right? That kind of energy, it pulls the things you're imagining toward you. It really does. And it may take time. But even in that time that it takes, you're in a different place. You're in that inner world where you have this power of soul connection and inner peace and happiness. And so, yes, these things, of course, these things are difficult. Look at how they acknowledge that in these first 2 cards, but recognize that your strength comes from within. Your connection begins as you sort of turn inward, and that's your connection with your guides and universe, universal love, all the others who in the world, and there are far many more of them than there are of people living in fear-based lives. That connection, it all adds to your own power to live in joy and happiness and hope, and life is supposed to be that way. I mean, that's what we're meant to have. Yes, of course we have challenges. We're trying to learn and grow, but we're also and predominantly meant to have joy and fun, laughter, happiness, uh, experiences, right? Joyful experiences. We're meant to have love in our lives and move toward love and light. So these sort of false people, these power grabbing people, they can never take that away from us, and unless we give it away, right? That inner part. And there is this promise of the sun and all that that includes. And so this is sort of the cornerstone card. I think if the last card is kind of, especially when it's like a pyramid shape, this cornerstone card, like what do we take with us? It's like, hold on fast. Hold on fast to the things you love. These people, they have no real power. I mean, they poke and prod, right? But you can maintain your position. You can maintain your connection, especially when you recognize that connection, when you visit that connection, when you utilize that collection. That's real power, right? And that is the opportunity for real movement forward and for real growth, and it's yours. So there you have it. I hope that this is helpful to you. I'm interested to see how readings progress with like individual clients that I have. Very often readings, as we progress, they get a little bit deeper, sometimes much more personal. But they lay a groundwork and expand on it. A lot of universal knowledge that, of course, the universe, our guides want to share with us to help us understand just like what's going on while we're here. So we'll see how they progress, but thank you so much for being here at this first reading for my P through T friends, all of you. If this is your first time the Cardvoyant channel, I welcome. First of all, there's lots of past videos that you can look at if you have any interest. If not, I hope to come back for June. And until then, I'll just say thanks again and bye for now.